Greetings and welcome to the Wealth for Real YouTube channel. I'm your host, Christopher Anastasio. It's Monday, October 2nd, 2023. And in this video, guys, I want to talk to you about this article that you see in the background on my screen. Hopefully you can see it okay. This article was published on Saturday, September 30th. So you're going to notice that's important because there's something dated inside of it that I just want to point out to you right away. But you can see the title right here, guys. 5 economic shocks are about to hit the U.S. all at the same time. Quote, there are storm clouds out there forming that we're all seeing and watching fearfully, unquote. You'll see who said that here in a moment. Before we just skim through this a little bit, guys, I'm not going to read it word for word. I'm not going to go into a tremendous amount of detail, but I did want to call it to your attention and point you towards it so you can read it and digest it. It is out on my Facebook feed, so if you go to the Wealth for Real page, you'll see it posted here from September 30th around noonish, so you can access it there or Google it. One warning here, guys, and I'm surprised it didn't happen when I brought it up here. When I read it on Apple News, I could go straight to it, back and forth as many times as I wanted to. When I opened it in the Safari browser, it brought up a paywall. And now when I opened it on this laptop, it did not bring up a paywall. So there's always a chance, guys, you're going to run into an issue with subscription to Fortune or whatnot. So hopefully you can see this and read what I'm going to be talking to you about today. So bottom line here, guys, is, obviously this caught my attention. The concerned look by Jerome Powell also caught my attention, but that's typical these days. This quote here, guys, just to close the loop on that, was Jesse Wheeler, senior economist at Morning Consult, had that quote there. So let's look at the 5 things that they're talking about here, guys, real quick. And so the first one, this is what I was talking about, this being dated. National debt is over $33 trillion and the government's about to shut down again. Of course, it didn't shut down. Later on the 30th, they avoided it. But the really staggering thing here, guys, again, I'll let you dive into this, but to point a few things out along the way here, federal government hit the $31.4 trillion debt ceiling back in January. And here we are in October, 9 months later, and it's already up to $33 trillion. And so what you can just see there, guys, is this incredible pace of adding to the national debt. And this also jumped out at me, guys. This was talking about why are certain politicians trying to hold back the spending bill that ultimately kept the government open. And you see here, they note the national debt soared above $33.1 trillion in September, and cumulative national deficit, not the debt, but the deficit between 2024 and 33 is now projected to top over $20 trillion due to increased spending. So the deficits for the next decade are 2/3 of today's debt. That is absolutely eye-watering and unconscionable. And the other item I wanted to show you guys here, which I never even thought about this totally went over my head until I read it here. And of course, it's not relevant anymore because the government didn't shut down. But it says here, while there's never a good time for the federal government to shut down, the potential for one in the current economic environment is more concerning. Not only would a shutdown reduce economic growth, we got that, but it would create a data vacuum at a time when the path ahead for the economy is highly uncertain. So this was talking about how the people who measure economic, data, metrics, report this stuff, they're considered non-essential, and they would not be, I don't know if it said they wouldn't be paid or they wouldn't have to show up to work. But either way, it says they wouldn't be paid during a shutdown. So basically that whole mechanism that gives the Federal Reserve and the government the data it needs to make decisions, of course, wouldn't say those decisions are too good to begin with. But they wouldn't even have the data they're working with today. So really an interesting paragraph or section here about the national debt. But of course, the shutdown didn't happen. Of course, that doesn't change this fact, the $33 trillion, which remains. So that was number one. Number two, oil headed north of $100 a barrel. I think the last time I looked it up, it was like $91 or something like that. So we all know what this is going to translate to. I mean, just higher gas prices. I mean, we're already kind of seeing it. I'm seeing it at some gas stations. I'm a little bit taken aback by some of the numbers that I see in the local area here. Saw some numbers well over $5. That's like kind of the first time I remember registering that. So this, this is just never a good thing. From my experience, there's some interesting commentary in here about Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo saying rise in oil prices is the beginning of a commodity super cycle that could keep inflation elevated. So that doesn't sound good, obviously. But anyway, so that's number two, guys. Number three, UAW strike could crush the car market. I mean, if you guys have been paying attention or doing anything with acquiring a vehicle, lease, financing, whatever, over the last few years, it's been a nightmare. Super high prices, super difficult to get certain cars, all this kind of stuff going on. And now you have the UAW strike. So there's some write-up in here about that and the impact of that strike, which was kind of interesting. Number 4, nearly 44 million student loan borrowers will soon see payments restart. So obviously, I think it was October 1st, yesterday, that these loans got turned back on. So now those individuals, their budgets are hit, their wallets get hit. These loans, you might start seeing, I don't want to say might, I mean, you're almost certainly going to see rafts of defaults on these loans where people just stop paying. I've seen some stuff circulating on social media where people are like, basically saying like, the joke's on the banking system, like any of us are actually going to repay these loans. So the mood and the zeitgeist there is that this just isn't going to, this is a non-starter one way or the other. Either people can't afford it, so they're going to try to pay, but they can't, or they're just going to deliberately not pay, and it's just going to have a domino effect. So you got that one. And then number 5, mortgage rates nearing 8% threatens to restart the housing deep freeze. As you guys know, the mortgage rates are just, many of us alive right now haven't seen anything like this before, or if we did, it was so distant of a memory that it's still shocking. But some interesting commentary in here about the mortgage rates and how that's kind of impacting the whole situation. So the interesting thing about these 5, guys, to wrap up now, is that there's no mention of the commercial real estate issue and the fact that you have these maturities in 2025 and 27 that are forcing refinancing that's just going to be brutal at this rate level. But of course, we're talking about higher rate levels, I assume, for commercial real estate versus home ownership. But whatever the case may be, they're higher than they were when the loans were taken out. And so I was a little bit surprised that they didn't say anything about that in here. Maybe I just kind of missed it and it was embedded in one of these other 4 things up here. But when you throw that in as number 6, and you realize that some of those effects are already showing up because some of these commercial real estate loan holders have already mailed the keys back to the banks. And I mean, that's just the beginning. That's just the tip of the iceberg. It gets really, really ugly. So anyway, guys, just wanted you guys to see this. And would love to hear what you think about it. Drop a comment or question below. But, obviously not encouraging. And I mean, some of this stuff is just staggering. I think Unusual Whales posted this morning or last night, I think it was this morning, that the interest on this debt has now exceeded the national defense budget. So I assume it's that defense budget, I think, was in the 700 billions, if I remember correctly, guys. Let's call it that, 700 and change. And I think it cited the interest on the debt as like 800 trillion. I mean, got to walk that one back. 800 billion on the interest on the debt. So 800 billion interest, 700 and change defense budget, if I recall correctly. But the bottom line is the interest has gone over the defense budget. So absolutely staggering, absolutely incredible, super disheartening. And you just can't imagine a scenario where this ends well. Just can't even dream one up. So anyway, let me know what you guys think about this article if you have a chance to read, if you're able to access it and stuff. Again, if you have Apple News, you may have already come across it. You may be able to find it there. That's where you can almost certainly see it if you cannot get past the paywall, just doing regular internet browsing sessions. So anyway, hope you guys are having a great Monday. Looking forward to your comments below. Hit the subscribe button if you guys haven't done it yet. I really appreciate everybody who has done that, who has consumed the content, dropped comments, questions. Can't thank you guys enough. I mean, learning from a lot of these comments and inputs that you guys put out there. So that's super helpful for me, and glad, hopefully, that I can bring some valuable stuff to your attention as well. Until next time, guys, hope everybody has a great Monday night, and we'll talk soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.